done. Anyway, let's first, talk about the big story of the week. Dexter Lawrence requesting a trade from the New York Giants. Now, Sexy Dexy is in the middle of a 4-year contract that's got 2 years left on it and averages about $22.5 million per year. I believe it's about 24 one year and then like something like 18 the next year. Anyway, it evens out to be about 22.5. No guaranteed money. And that seems to be the contending factor for his camp is we want the guaranteed money. Dexter Lawrence came off of an injury last season. He had a dislocated elbow. He's only had half a sack all of last season, which is way down for him. His numbers are usually way better. Now, he is a defensive tackle, so that's not necessarily the number one stat to look at when looking at him, but that's kind of what he's been known for, is getting, premium sacks at that defensive tackle position. Now, there are some teams that are going to be looking at him or should be looking at him, I should say. Obviously, the Giants are going to look at getting a deal done with him, figuring that out. John Harbaugh said he was not surprised that Lawrence requested a trade. They would just like to, work through this. This is part of the business. We'll see what happens. The Chargers, if our Chargers fans are in here, they, I believe, should be looking into it. They got Taylor Tart, and then after that, that position kind of falls off. 49ers have been actively trying to improve their defensive line. Same with the Chicago Bears. They were in on the Trey Hendrickson lottery. So I would expect them to also be in on Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence is younger than Trey Hendrickson. Who says no? T. Higgins and a fourth for Dexter Lawrence. I think both the Bengals and the Giants would say no to that. I don't think the Bengals want to trade T. Higgins, and I don't know that just T. Higgins and a fourth would get the move done. But I am open. You bring up the Bengals. The Bengals are another team I think should be involved. I would be willing to trade one of the current defensive tackles and a second for Dexter Lawrence, whether it be Chris Jenkins, who's on a rookie deal, or TJ Slayton, who I believe is on the last year of his current deal. Get that done because, whoever signs him is going to have to probably, give him that contract extension that he wants or give him that guaranteed money. The Texans are another team that should be in on Dexter Lawrence, in my opinion. They did just pick up the fifth-year options for C.J. Stroud and Willie Anderson Jr. as well and are actively working on extensions for those guys. So maybe they, want to see what those two cost before they, bring in another big name to work on a contract extension with. I did reach out to some people I know about the Bengals going after Dexter Lawrence. And I'm just going to pull up my Twitter feed here, my DMs, so I can get some direct quotes. So my guy reached out to his guy, and basically his guy's a scout, not a decision maker. And he has not heard anything that the Bengals have, anything on the table for Dexter Lawrence. He thinks that he's going to take a first or multiple day 2 picks. So that's why I'm thinking the T. Higgins trade just wouldn't work. He said that he didn't think a third and like Chris or TJ would get it done. So now I'm saying maybe a second in Chris or TJ. We'll see. New York media is reporting that since he has a package on the table, but based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like they don't. Also, it sounds like, that sounds more like the Bengals to not have a package on the table in this situation. It's a big star player that is going to cost a lot of money, wants guarantees, and is going to be, 30 by the end of his current contract, I believe, or he's going to be close to it. Now, that isn't to say that the Bengals won't sign anyone over the age of 30. We saw them break that mold just this year with Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen is over the age of 30. They signed him. Shocking to me personally. But I don't think the Bengals are going to be in on Dexter Lawrence at the price the Giants are probably asking for him. That being said, I think the Bears could be a strong contender in the Dexter Lawrence sweepstakes, if we want to call it that. So Dexter Lawrence, let's see here. Let's look at the Bears roster. Let me pull that up here on my phone. I know they've got one guy. I think they're similar to the Chargers in that they've got like one player that kind of is carrying the brunt of that. So this is their starting 4-3. Their starting defensive tackles are Chris Jones. This is the Chiefs. Why did ESPN give me the Chiefs? Okay, ESPN is broken. Anyway, I think maybe ESPN knows something that we don't. Could have some breaking news here on accident. But my point being is that's a position you want depth at. The Bears, the 49ers, the Texans, and the Chargers all don't really have depth at it. I could see they've all got, first round, second round picks. Chris, I know you commented before that the Vikings have an extra third round pick that you'd be willing to give up. I know, Chris, you said keep them away from the NFC North, but they're in a win now situation. The Chicago Bears feel like they're in a win now situation with Ben Johnson as coach, Caleb Williams at the quarterback position. They've got a lot of young star rookies over there. They could go all in on this defensive line and bring in Sexy Dexy. I would not be shocked. Actually, I think they're probably my favorites to do so. The more I think about it, I think you should get used to seeing Dexter Lawrence in a Chicago Bears jersey if he gets traded. That's my pick for this. He just, he fits what they need, in my opinion, and they have the ability and the draft capital to go after him. They don't really have a ton of holes on their roster. Their defense is. The defense lost quite a few people, but we're adding to that defense with Dexter Lawrence. And, if you have a guy like Dexter Lawrence on your front line, that helps your linebackers and your safeties tremendously. So, yes, the Bears did lose on defense, but they would be gaining something massive up front here. And then they can fill those other pieces through the draft or, there are other free agents still available. Bobby Wagner's still available, for example. So the Bears, I think, are my favorite for this. Then they shouldn't have gotten rid of DJ Moore. They don't really have a wide receiver 2 now. I think they feel like not Matthew Golden. He's on the Packers. Luther Burden. I think they feel like he's the wide receiver 2. I think they like him. Also, Colston Loveland acts a lot like a wide receiver in a lot of the schemes. And he's really good in that hook and ladder formation that Ben Johnson just absolutely loves. So they don't have a true wide receiver 2, but they may see Colston Loveland as that kind of fill-in, similar to what the Bengals do with like Mike Gesicki, or even the Chiefs with Travis Kelce when he was in his prime more. Just kind of, I think they offloaded DJ Moore because they felt comfortable with their young guys. They knew they could get the capital, and they knew they could get rid of the contract to get cheaper at that position. Also, they may be wanting to pay Rome soon, or Rome may be wanting to get paid soon. So they've got to watch out for that. So it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, that's a lot of weight to put on Luther Burden Jr. And hope that he, develops into that guy that you are wanting him to. But I think I'm hesitant to criticize Ben Johnson, and it's not Luther Burden. It's Luther Burden III. I apologize, but I'm hesitant to criticize Ben Johnson on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Chris, you should know better than anyone. Ben Johnson knows his offense. He knows what he wants to do on offense. And if he thinks they can get away with not having DJ Moore on that roster, I trust him. I'm not going to criticize him too much for that. But right now, Dexter Lawrence to the Bears is my favorite if he gets traded. Obviously, Giants are the current favorite. Giants really don't have anyone behind him to fill his position either if they do trade him. So that would open up a need. Darius Alexander is a guy I liked last season from Fort Wayne. Went to Toledo and was drafted in the third round by the New York Giants. I think he's got potential, but he didn't really show it a ton in his rookie year. So I'm sure the Giants would like to see him develop more before they offload an asset like Dexter Lawrence, sexy Dexy. But we'll see what happens. Chris, I would start preparing for the Bears, though. In my opinion, that's